Behind the rugged charm of the Rifleman star, Chuck Connors, lies a story far darker than fans ever imagined. Known for his commanding presence and iron will, Connors clashed with more than a few Hollywood legends. But one feud stood out as the most explosive of his career. The tension wasn't just about ego, it was fueled by pride, betrayal, and a shocking revelation that forever changed how insiders viewed him. Today, we uncover the truth behind the man Connors truly despised more than anyone, and why this bitter rivalry still echoes through Hollywood's golden era. Chuck Connors' final days ended a life Hollywood could never replicate. Chuck Connors lived a life so improbably full that Hollywood never truly found a way to recreate it, and his final days reflected that same unsentimental reality. Connors passed away on November 10, 1992, at age 71 from lung cancer and pneumonia at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. There was no dramatic farewell, no public spectacle, and no mythologizing. Fittingly, the man who played stoic fathers and rugged loners left quietly. By then, Connors had outlived several careers. For acting, he was one of 13 dual sports pros: Major League Baseball, 1 game for the Dodgers in 1949, 67 games for the Cubs in 1951, and the NBA, Boston Celtics 8 games. Hollywood came later, fame almost accidentally. The Rifleman didn't just make him a TV icon, it redefined the Western father. Toughness with moral restraint when TV rarely slowed down. Privately, Connors' later years showed reflection. He openly battled alcoholism but achieved sobriety, a fact overshadowed by his screen persona. Friends described him as Irish, calmer, less fame-driven, and aware his life was unusually complete. He stayed fan-connected without nostalgia tours. Nerdy Hollywood truth, studios tried replacing Connors' athletic authenticity, authority, and vulnerability, and failed. You can't cast a resume like his. Chuck Connors didn't exit as a legend chasing relevance. He left having done more than most imagine, on fields, courts, and screens, without needing the ending to prove it. Born Kevin Joseph Connors, he grew up poor in Brooklyn during the Depression. Chuck Connors was born Kevin Joseph Connors on April 10, 1921, in Brooklyn's Bay Ridge during the Great Depression. Money scarce, jobs uncertain, toughness survival. Father Alan, an Irish immigrant, was an athlete, basketball and baseball, an immigrant longshoreman and night watchman. And Mother Marcella did menial office cleaning to support the family. No safety nets. Discipline from Basilica of Our Lady of Purpose Boy and public schools. Sports escape, Bay Ridge Celtics, sandlots, brutal auditions. Stood out at Adelphi Academy, scholarship, graduated in 1939. Earned 25-plus college offers. Chose Seton Hall for basketball and baseball. Athletic scholarships were lifelines in 1930s Brooklyn. Dense, competitive, unforgiving. Street games forged on-screen authority. Upright posture, clipped speech, physical certainty, not acting schools. Stoic demeanor from environment where complaining solved nothing. Connors never exaggerated hardship. He sold no tragic narrative. It simply was. Realism shaped athlete respecting work. Actor never faking toughness. Hollywood marketed the American grit symbol, but the truth was simpler. Grit was learned young in Brooklyn when survival preceded dreams. Excuses were impossible. Depression motivated the ball player and actor towards success. Coach John Flynn's Bay Ridge Celtics instilled integrity. Adelphi's Hollis Botts, an ex-boxer, guided him in sports and school. Seton Hall's 11-0 baseball, varsity basketball, behind Bob Davies. Connors' posture and authority, Brooklyn streets, not studios. Chuck Connors was a Catholic altar boy long before he held a rifle. Chuck Connors grew up in a Brooklyn when Catholicism wasn't a cultural accessory, it was structure, discipline, and daily routine. Born Kevin Joseph Connors in 1921 to Irish immigrant parents, he was raised in a devout Catholic household during the Great Depression. time when faith often filled the gaps money couldn't. As a boy, Connors served as an altar boy at his local parish, an experience that quietly shaped the moral backbone audiences would later sense, even when they couldn't name it. Being an altar boy in 1930s Brooklyn wasn't ceremonial fluff. It meant early mornings, memorized Latin responses, strict expectations, and public accountability in a tight-knit neighborhood. You stood straight, spoke clearly, and learned that authority came with responsibility. Connors absorbed those lessons long before cameras entered his life. The discipline of the church mirrored the discipline demanded by sports, which soon became his escape route out of poverty. Faith didn't make him soft, it made him focused. Nerdy but telling contrast. When Connors later became famous as Lucas McCain on The Rifleman, audiences often mistook the character's moral clarity as scripted idealism. In reality, the show's emphasis on right and wrong, restraint over impulse, and consequences for violence aligned closely with Connors' own upbringing. Even as a Western icon wielding a rifle, his characters rarely glorified killing. That wasn't accidental casting, it was instinct. Connors never marketed his faith aggressively, nor did he distance himself from it. Like much of his life, it stayed private and unpolished. He didn't sermonize in interviews or wrap himself in religious identity, but the imprint was there, in posture, restraint, and authority without cruelty. Long before he became a symbol of frontier justice, Chuck Connors learned ritual, responsibility, and humility in a Brooklyn church aisle. The rifle came later. The moral compass came first. He towered over everyone at 6'6", but had no clear future. Chuck Connors stood out the moment he entered a room, literally. At 6 feet 6 inches tall, with broad shoulders and natural athleticism, Connors looked destined for greatness. Yet, for much of his early life, that physical advantage came with no clear roadmap. Growing up poor in Brooklyn during the Depression, height didn't equal opportunity, it just made him noticeable in a world offering few exits for working-class kids. Sports seemed obvious, but nothing was guaranteed. Excelled in basketball and baseball at Adelphi Academy, scholarship, graduated 1939, and earned a Seton Hall offer, attended 1941 to 1942. College athletics in the 1940s promised no security, no massive contracts, endorsements, or safety nets. Left Seton Hall in 42 for Army, enlisted World War II, served from 1942 to 1946. Post-discharge, bounced pro sports, NBA Boston Celtics, 8 games from 1946 to 1948. Major League Baseball, Brooklyn Dodgers, 1 at-bat in 1949. And for the Cubs, he played 67 games and hit 4 times in 1951. Nerdy sports history detail, one of 13 dual sports pros. But minimal stats reflected uncertainty, not dominance. Versatility wasn't celebrated, it was transience. Height opened doors, but there was no guidance on walking through. Connors is ungroomed and unmanaged. He learned trial, rejection, and persistence. Ambiguity shaped his personality. Adaptable, disciplined, and unromantic about success. Failure? Move on, no drama. Ironically prepared for Hollywood. Acting arrived accidentally. His imposing presence made screen sense. Before fame with The Rifleman, Connors was a young man with raw talent and stubborn resolve, keeping his standing until a door stayed open. Before fame, he worked odd jobs just to keep playing sports. Chuck Connors didn't chase fame, he chased staying in the game. For Hollywood, he navigated 1940s pro sports with little financial security. Minor league salaries were modest, $200 signing bonus in winter in 1940. Seasons were short and contracts unstable. Post-Army, 1942 to 1946 tank instructor, Connors played for the NBA Boston Celtics in winter and minor league Major League Baseball in the spring and fall. Connors played in the Dodgers system with the Montreal Royals, AAA, and for the Cubs in 1951, where he had 67 plate appearances. He did not have any significant contracts, endorsements, or safety nets. A single injury could end everything. Nerdy sports history detail, 1940s athletes were practical, not pampered. They didn't have agents, no guaranteed deals, or medical support. Connors, a shrewd negotiator, was a Celtics holdout in 1947. Dodgers spring training battles. Versatility for year-round living. Stability over pride. Never framed years of hardship, necessary grind. Sports kept the body active, discipline sharp, and identity intact. Acting entered accidentally. Casting directors noticed size and presence at Dodgers games, not a stardom chase. Screen-tested Pat and Mike in 1952 before Rifleman and television came. Connors did what he always did, negotiated contracts, played dual sports, and persisted through rejection. The tallest athlete found a screen home, trusting persistence until opportunity struck. Chuck Connors is still the only man to play in both the NBA and MLB. Chuck Connors occupies a statistical corner of sports history that remains rare as of 2026. One of only 13 athletes to play two sports professionally, not tryouts. Actually played. In the late 1940s, he suited up for the Boston Celtics, 8 games during the 1946 to 1948 seasons, during the NBA's formative years. Gritty, underpaid, physically strength and punishing, and demanding endurance over theatrics. Simultaneously, he pursued baseball, the Brooklyn Dodgers organization, Montreal Royals, AAA, Major League debut, one at-bat with the Dodgers, May 1, 1949, and then the Cubs' 67 plate appearances in 1951. 4 hits, 2 home runs, and a .239 batting average. Major League Baseball career was brief, not star-studded, but access remarkable. Today's sports ecosystems are specialized, year-round, and contractually restrictive. Crossover is virtually impossible. Connors bridged before walls existed. Nerdy historical context, Connors' era had smaller leagues, lower salaries, and no lifetime pipelines from childhood. Freedom allowed rare crossover, but required extraordinary adaptability. Basketball and baseball demand different reflexes, conditioning, and mental rhythms. Connors managed to switch and competed marginally in both. The achievement's remarkable, never a bragging point though. Spoke factually, no myth-making. Sports were work. Played where I could. Hollywood turned Western icon, but the athletic resume was real before the rifle. Even with sports science and specialization decades later, only 13 total – Ainge, Conley, Duboucher, Grote, and Reed – Connors didn't bridge alone but closed the door, the era marking conditioning and duplication exponentially harder. He played for the Celtics but was cut before the season began. Chuck Connors' basketball resume is often simplified, but the reality is more precarious and more revealing. Connors did play professional basketball with the Boston Celtics during the 1946-47 season, when the team competed in the Basketball Association of America, the league that would soon become the NBA. He appeared in regular season games during that inaugural year, time when rosters were fluid, pay was low, and the league itself was still figuring out how to survive. There's no long-term security attached to wearing an NBA uniform. That instability caught up with him quickly. As teams retooled for the following season, Connors found himself on the outside. Despite his size and athleticism, he was released before the next season began, a reminder that early professional basketball was brutally pragmatic. Performance, fit, and finances mattered more than potential. There were no guaranteed contracts, no player unions with leverage, and no development timelines. One year you were in uniform, the next you were packing a bag. Nerdy league context matters here. The late 1940s, the Celtics were not the dynasty fans know today. They were experimenting, trimming costs, and constantly adjusting lineups. Players like Connors were evaluated quickly and discarded just as fast. Being cut wasn't a scandal, it was conditioning and routine. Connors didn't dramatize the setback, he pivoted. Baseball still beckoned, and so did other opportunities. That willingness to move on without bitterness defined his entire career. He didn't cling to a single identity as a basketball player. He adapted. Ironically, being cut helped shape his future. It reinforced a lesson he already knew from growing up poor. No platform is permanent. Whether in sports or later in Hollywood, Connors never assumed a role was owed to him. He earned what stuck and let go of what didn't. Playing for the Celtics mattered, but being cut taught him something more durable. In a life defined by transition, resilience mattered far more than a roster spot. Why his Major League Baseball career never took off. Chuck Connors had the size, strength, and work ethic for Major League Baseball, but timing and conditioning and competition worked against him. Played first base for the Brooklyn Dodgers organization in the late 1940s, the era of breaking into the majors was brutally difficult. The roster was stacked, notably with Gil Hodges emerging as the regular first baseman. Competition was fierce, opportunities limited, and development patience was thin. Reached the majors briefly, one at bat with the Dodgers May 1, 1949. Age 28, rounded into a double play. The Chicago Cubs, 66 games in 1941. Age 30. Major League Baseball stints were short, not due to lack of effort, but because they were blocked by entrenched starters. Excellent athlete, but baseball rewards repetition above all. Post-Celtics, 1947, he focused on baseball fully, no split Polish issue. Nerdy context, post-war MLB is evolving. Farm systems were expanding, and front offices favored pipelines. Connors, a late 20s minor, is seen as replaceable behind Hodges. The manager change from Frankie Frisch to Phil Cavarretta plummeted stock post-1951. No injuries documented, never complained, understood ruthlessness. Cubs released didn't cling indefinitely. Pivoted, minor acting, then television, where physical presence matched opportunity. Ironically, qualities limiting baseball, adaptability, and no waiting endlessly strengthened Hollywood. Baseball didn't fail Connors, wasn't built to hold someone, life moving to the next field. He once struck out against a pitcher who barely knew his name. Chuck Connors learned early Major League Baseball cared nothing for reputations, only results. Brief stint, Brooklyn Dodgers, one at bat in 49, and the Cubs, 66 games in 51, late 40s, early 50s. Experienced the quiet humiliation fringe players face, stepping into the batter's box against pitchers who have no reason to remember him. One at bat summed it up. May 1st, 1949, Dodgers versus Phillies. Pinch-hitting ninth inning, potential tying run, faced Russ Meyer. Belt-high fastball, outside corner. Creamed it. One hop back to the mound, turned into a 1-6-3 double play, ending the game. Nothing cinematic, no dramatic count, just hard contact in the wrong direction. Post-war baseball reality, deep rosters and unforgiving rotations, marginal player statistics. Connors understood instantly. Later acknowledged that baseball ignored yesterday's work. Plus athleticism, cared moment results. Nerdy context, pre-free agency, hitters like Connors had no error margin. Bad series ended careers. Pitchers attacked weaknesses and moved on. Connors, in his late 20s, without a long runway, felt pressure, revealing isn't double play reaction. Didn't argue, demand chances, or romanticize later. He accepted the information. Baseball spoke. Same indifference prepared him for Hollywood. Acting, like baseball, remembers only screen results, not effort. Connors never forgot. Long before the Rifleman, learned opportunity passes quickly. The world owes nothing once gone. Sports gave him discipline, but took away his confidence. Connors was forged by sports in empowering ways. Growing poor, towering over peers, and being athletic gave structure, purpose, and a way forward. Few options existed. Baseball and basketball taught discipline and physical control and repetition, skills that translated seamlessly to acting. Learned to take instruction and endure failure, and keep showing up when the odds are thin. Professional sports margins built resilience. In the late 1940s, the Celtics and Major League Baseball Dodgers meant evaluation and rejection. No affirmation cycle, development patience. A bad week erased work, but instilled practicality, not fragility. Nerdy reality, Connors' era had no sports psychologists, guaranteed contracts, or long-term validation. Cut or benched? Pivot. Connors was later grateful. I owe baseball all that I have. Made my entrance to the film industry immeasurably easier. No confidence erosion. Sports provided Hollywood access, scouts at Dodgers games. Casting noticed his size and presence. He trusted the opportunity. Sports trainers expect replacement? No, taught versatility. Ironically, acting rewarded what sports honed, discipline and stability. Roles didn't vanish overnight. Authority unquestioned weekly. Rifleman gave continuity sports lacked. Sports made Connors strong, taught adaptability over entitlement. Tension, discipline, and transition followed every role, giving performances quiet gravity. A casting agent spotted him because of his height, not his talent. Chuck Connors did not enter Hollywood through acting classes, theater auditions, or carefully polished monologues. He was noticed for one blunt reason: he was impossible to miss. Standing 6 feet 6 inches tall with an athlete's build, Connors caught the attention of a casting agent in the early 1950s, at a time when studios were constantly searching for imposing physical types. Talent was secondary. Presence came first. At that stage, Connors had no formal acting training and no reputation as a performer. His resume was athletic, not artistic. Casting departments saw him as a type, a heavy, a soldier, a lawman, someone who could fill a wide frame without disappearing. His earliest roles reflected that reality. He was cast in small, often silent or near-silent parts where stature mattered more than dialogue. Films like Pat and Mike used him as physical texture, not emotional center. Hollywood wasn't asking if he could act, it was asking if he looked right standing next to stars. Nerdy studio-era context matters here. In the 1950s, studios routinely scouted athletes for screen roles, assuming physical discipline could be molded into performance. Connors fits that theory perfectly. But the downside was clear. He wasn't taken seriously. He was replaceable. Another tall man could always be found. What changed everything was Connors himself. Instead of leaning into intimidation, he learned restraint. He listened, watched veteran actors, and absorbed timing the same way he once studied pitchers and defenders. By the time the Rifleman arrived, the height was no longer the selling point. It was the foundation. Audiences responded not to size but to authority, warmth, and moral clarity. Ironically, the trait that got him noticed almost trapped him. Connors had to prove, slowly, quietly, that there was more behind the frame. Hollywood found him because he was tall. Television kept him because he finally showed depth. He took acting lessons only after being mocked on his first set. Chuck Connors didn't arrive in Hollywood thinking he was an actor. First experiences confirmed it. Landed early film roles in the early 1950s. Notably, Pat and Mike was a 1952 police captain. Raw material, athlete's presence, unfamiliar dialogue rhythms, no formal training. According to accounts, it transitioned smoothly. Sports taught performance. Dug out Laurence Olivier of the Diamond theatrics. Didn't respond defensively, recognized gap, and adapted. Sports training accepts correction sans ego. Applied to filmmaking. Observed veterans absorbed timing like studied pitchers. Treated acting like batting practice as repetition over pride. Nerdy context: 1950s athletes turned actors were often untrained, burned out novelties. Connors refused the pattern, watched character actors, and learned underplay versus dominate. Reshaped his presence from imposing to authoritative. Payoff was gradual. Support roles, TV-built skills. Rifleman, 1958, arrived. He carried moral weight weekly. Not height or athleticism, humiliation, preparation. No mockery documented. Self-taught discipline worked. Forced truth, many miss. Presence opens the door. Preparation keeps it open. Connors learned it once and mastered it. Anytime a batter called out strikes, acted plenty in the dugout, made the manager believe the umpire was wrong. Hollywood didn't know what to do with a 6 6 inch leading man. Chuck Connors entered Hollywood at a moment leading men fit a specific mold. He shattered it. 6 feet 6 inches tall, physically overwhelmed co-stars, directors, and frames. Early 1950 studios built around Cary Grant, William Holden, and James Stewart, average height, classical cinematography. Connors dominated space naturally. Studios knew exactly. Cast soldiers, policemen, heavies where stature trumped nuance. Pat and Mike, 1952 police captain, Hold Back the Night, Big Country, Silent Indian, size perfect. Directors framed comfortably. No awkward, low, wide shots documented. He had presence, exactly calibrated industry balance. Nerdy technical detail, studio camera setups accommodated range heights. Connors had no adjustment issues. Size, never difficult, it was a distinctive asset. Casting sold perfectly. Unconventional marquee? Rifleman proved otherwise. Television, smaller screen, amplified authority, not reduced scale. Lucas McCain reframed height symbolically. Strength with restraint. Power tempered morality. What studios saw advantage, TV made iconic. Hindsight, Connors' perfectly timed industry embraced physical difference immediately. Hollywood didn't stall frame him, knew precisely, towering authority figure. Television confirmed. Once audiences accepted a 6'6" leading man was credible, he dominated weekly. Size was never a problem. It was the foundation of his stardom. Why Westerns became his last real shot at stardom. Chuck Connors didn't set out to become a Western star. Westerns became his last best alignment with Hollywood reality. By the mid-1950s, Connors had already learned a hard truth. Mainstream film stardom wasn't built for someone with his size, age, and unconventional resume. He was too tall for traditional romantic leads, too serious for light comedy, and too late arriving to be molded into a studio ingenue. Feature films kept circling him without committing. Television, however, was exploding, and Westerns were its backbone. This mattered because TV Westerns weren't looking for polish, they wanted authority. In a genre built on fathers, lawmen, and moral anchors, Connors' 6'6" frame stopped being a liability and became a visual promise. When The Rifleman premiered in 1958, it arrived at the exact moment television audiences were ready for a more grounded Western hero, someone who embodied strength without swagger. Connors' Lucas McCain wasn't flashy, wasn't youthful, and wasn't ironic. He was steady. That distinction made him unforgettable. Nerdy industry context: by the late 1950s, Hollywood films were shrinking Western output while television ramped it up aggressively. Film studios still saw TV as a downgrade. Actors who embraced it early often gained enormous visibility. Connors recognized the opening. Westerns were the one genre where age, height, and restraint weren't obstacles, they were qualifications. Without Westerns, Connors likely would have remained a respected supporting actor. With them, he became a household name. The Rifleman ran 5 seasons, entered syndication, and permanently associated Connors with moral authority rather than physical novelty. It also gave him something Hollywood films never quite offered: continuity. Westerns weren't a fallback. They were the final door that stayed open, and Connors walked through it at exactly the right moment. Stardom didn't come from chasing every genre. It came from finding the one that fit when nothing else did. The Rifleman changed TV history and made Chuck Connors a legend. Chuck Connors didn't just star in The Rifleman, he helped redefine what television could demand from its heroes. When the series premiered in 1958, TV Westerns were everywhere. They were often simplistic morality plays aimed squarely at entertainment, not emotional depth. The Rifleman changed that equation. As Lucas McCain, Connors portrayed a widowed father raising his son while navigating violence, grief, and responsibility in a harsh frontier world. That alone was revolutionary. Television rarely centered on single fathers and almost never treated parenthood as a serious moral burden. The show's influence went far beyond its iconic rifle spin opening. It presented consequences. Gunfire wasn't casual. Villains weren't always cartoonish, and McCain didn't relish violence, he endured it. Connors insisted on that tone, drawing from his own discipline and restraint rather than Western bravado. Nerdy production detail that matters. Many episodes were written with theatrical structure, tighter dialogue, and darker themes than network TV typically allowed, helping elevate television Westerns from filler programming into prestige storytelling years before the term existed. Connors' performance anchored it all. His 6'6" frame projected authority, but it was his stillness that sold credibility. He rarely overplayed emotion, trusting silence and posture. Techniques he refined after years of being underestimated in both sports and film. Viewers responded. The Rifleman ran for 5 successful seasons, entering heavy syndication and influenced later TV dramas that blended family, violence, and moral complexity. Most importantly, it permanently changed Connor's legacy. Before the show, he was a former athlete searching for footing. After it, he was a symbol of principled strength, an image that outlived trends, genres, and even the Western itself. The Rifleman didn't just make Chuck Connors famous, it made him timeless. He learned the rifle spin in weeks, and it became iconic forever. Chuck Connors didn't arrive on the Rifleman set knowing rapid-fire rifle spin, television's most recognizable openings. 1958 development, the technique devised separated Lucas McCain from Western heroes. Followed extensive repetitive training, athletic, not theatrical. He approached sports drills, rifles specially modified, larger loop lever cycled one-handed, required wrist strength, timing, and coordination, practiced relentlessly, spinning and firing hundreds daily until it was instinctive. Nerdy detail, opening in real time, no speed up, and actually firing and cycling stunned audiences and firearm experts. Sound editors layered emphasis, no trick photography or shortcuts. Iconic, not mechanics, restraint. Walked forward calmly, firing precisely, projecting control over aggression. Matched McCain, capable of violence but never eager. Results outlived the show. Decades later, spin shorthand, Rifleman, and Connor's authority. Mastered through discipline, repetition, and refusal to fake. Built existing firearm skill, hunter background. Refined large loop technique for weeks. Effortless authority sold the character perfectly. Why the Rifleman was filmed faster than any Western on TV. Chuck Connors starred in The Rifleman, an efficient 1950s TV Western production. In the late 1950s, episodes were shot at a standard half-hour pace, 7 to 10 days typical, matching genre demands. Secret discipline, not corners cut. Structure efficient, tight scripts, lean dialogue, minimal filler, fewer setups and coverage. Connor's major factor, his sports background brought preparedness and consistency, take after take. Directors relied on marks and usable performances. Nerdy detail, the famous rifle, modified large loop 1892 Winchester, enabled complex action clearly, safely. No constant resets needed. Connors performed personally, minimizing stunt doubles. Child actor Johnny Crawford prepared, reducing delays. Production culture was professional, no chaos. Directors planned pre-roll. Retakes are rare. Efficiency kept budgets low and schedules predictable, and networks loved it. Speed maintained quality, fresh performances, unoverworked emotion, and momentum retained. Other Westerns padded gunfights and stock footage. Rifleman trusted clarity and pace. Era volume obsession proved disciplined execution trumped waste. 168 episodes, 5 seasons, delivered consistently. Black and white, Iverson Ranch efficiency. Chuck Connors did his own gun work and refused a stunt double. Chuck Connors made a decision early on in The Rifleman that quietly set him apart from nearly every other television Western star of the era. He insisted on doing his own gun work. No stunt double, no handoff or close-ups. If Lucas McCain fired, spun, or handled a rifle on screen, it was Connors doing it every time. This wasn't bravado, it was practicality mixed with pride. Connors believed audiences could sense authenticity, and he refused to fake something that could be done for real. The show demanded constant firearm action, and Connors treated it like a physical discipline. He trained extensively with modified Winchester rifles, practicing cycling, aiming, and firing until the movements were automatic. Safety was paramount. Television Westerns in the late 1950s were fast-moving productions, and mistakes could shut down an entire set. Connors' athletic background mattered here. Years of professional sports had taught him muscle control, repetition, and respect for equipment. Directors trusted him because he was precise, not reckless. Nerdy production detail that matters. Connors' refusal to use a stunt double actually saved time and money. Switching performers required resets, camera adjustments, and continuity checks. With Connors handling everything himself, scenes could be shot quickly and cleanly. That efficiency became part of the Rifleman's legendary production speed. Insurance concerns existed, but Connor's consistency and preparation minimized that risk. What's striking is how little Connors talked about it. He didn't sell himself as fearless or superhuman. He simply believed that if a character carried a weapon as part of his identity, the actor should know exactly how it felt, weighed, and moved. That philosophy carried into his performance. Lucas McCain never looked like a man pretending to be dangerous. He looked like someone who understood consequence. Decades later, firearms experts still point out how controlled Connor's handling was compared to other Westerns. It wasn't flashy, it was correct. And that's why it aged well. Chuck Connors didn't need a stunt double because he didn't need illusion. He trusted skill, preparation, and the audience's ability to notice the difference. Chuck Connors truly hated him more than anyone, and the reason is shocking. The headline sounds like a Hollywood feud, but the truth is more sobering and fully documented. The person Chuck Connors most openly despised later in life wasn't a rival actor, a director, or a producer. It was the version of himself controlled by alcohol. Connors struggled with alcoholism for years, a fact he acknowledged publicly in later interviews and that friends confirmed after he got sober. What shocked people wasn't the addiction itself, Hollywood had plenty of those, but how bluntly Connors condemned it once he quit. Chuck Connors struggled with heavy drinking for years, a truth acknowledged privately, friends confirmed post-sobriety. Hollywood familiar addiction. Connors differed. He recognized in the late 70s that drinking eroded his discipline and relationships. No romanticized blame or shifting, he owned it. Committed to sobriety, became calmer, reflective, and less Hollywood excess. He avoided temptational environments and redirected his energy to work and fans steadily. The change was noticeable. No public hatred declarations, handled quietly. The former athlete understood limits, size and will insufficient versus addiction. Nerdy context, the generation rarely discussed this openly because the stigma was high. Connors chose discretion over headlines. No bravado interviews framing unbeatable opponent. Sobriety was survival, not a morality play. Hated is an internal battle. No grudges with people, just a habit threatening his identity. Sports and faith-built discipline was nearly undone. Quitting reclaimed it. In truth, his fiercest enemy was internal. Defeating it mattered, meant to more roles and rivalries. Physical dominance life is the hardest win, quiet, stuck. Post-Rifleman roles, branded guest spots, were steady. Personal life stabilized. No documented public sobriety crusade. He walked the talk privately. He played a widower dad, and America believed every second. Chuck Connors didn't just play a widower raising a son on The Rifleman. He made America believe that role down to the smallest, quietest details. When the series premiered in 1958, television rarely portrayed single fathers with emotional depth, let alone widowers navigating grief while raising a child. Lucas McCain wasn't written as a novelty. He was written as a man carrying loss without spectacle. And Connors understood that restraint was key. What made the performance convincing wasn't sentimentality. Connors rarely referenced McCain's late wife directly, and when he did, it was brief and unsentimental. That was intentional. Grief on The Rifleman lived in posture, silence, and the way McCain watched his son Mark, played by Johnny Crawford, with a mix of protectiveness and fear. Connors avoided melodrama, drawing instead on discipline learned from sports and a Depression-era upbringing where emotion was shown through action, not speech. Nerdy television context matters here. In the late 1950s, network TV favored clear moral binaries and tidy family structures. The Rifleman quietly broke that mold. It presented parenting as difficult, lonely, and morally complex. Connors insisted that Lucas McCain be firm but not harsh, loving without being indulgent. Violence was never casual because fatherhood wasn't. That balance made the relationship feel lived in, not scripted. Connors' real-life background helped. He wasn't a theatrical actor trained to signal emotion. He was a former athlete accustomed to control and repetition, which translated into believable authority. Johnny Crawford later credited Connors with creating a safe, focused environment that mirrored the father-son bond on screen. Audiences responded immediately. Viewers didn't just admire Lucas McCain, they trusted him. That trust turned The Rifleman into one of television's most enduring fatherhood portrayals. Connors didn't ask America to believe. He behaved as if belief was assumed, and the country followed. Why kids trusted him, and parents did too. Chuck Connors achieved something on The Rifleman that television rarely manages, even now. He earned the trust of children and adults at the same time. For kids, Lucas McCain was strong, calm, and unfailingly present, kind of father who listened before reacting and protected without smothering. Connors never played him as a superhero, he made him approachable. His physical size felt safe rather than intimidating, and his quiet tone suggested that mistakes were part of growing up, not reasons for punishment. Parents, meanwhile, trusted McCain for different reasons. He enforced boundaries. He believed in consequences. Episodes regularly showed him disciplining his son Mark with seriousness, but never cruelty, reflecting a parenting style that felt responsible rather than sentimental. In an era where many TV fathers were either distant authority figures or comic relief, Connors offered something grounded, a widowed parent doing his best with limited tools in a dangerous world. Nerdy television history detail, The Rifleman aired during a time when concerns about juvenile delinquency and media influence were high. Networks were under pressure to produce programming that reinforced moral values without preaching. Connors' performance threaded that needle perfectly. He didn't lecture the audience, he modeled behavior. Violence was portrayed as consequential, honesty mattered, and moral certainty was earned through action, not speeches. Off-screen, Connors' discipline helped sell that credibility. He arrived prepared, treated young co-star Johnny Crawford with respect, and maintained a calm, predictable presence on set, something Crawford later acknowledged as crucial to their on-screen chemistry. That consistency translated directly to the screen. The result was rare cultural alignment. Children saw a hero they could admire. Parents saw a role model they didn't have to apologize for. Decades later, that trust still holds, not because the show was perfect, but because Connors never played Lucas McCain as anything other than responsible, and audiences noticed. Thanks for watching Past Paradise, where Hollywood legends come home. If you enjoyed today's look into the topic, Chuck Connors truly hated him more than anyone, and the reason is shocking, then don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Got a star or story you want next? Drop it in the comments. Until then, keep the nostalgia alive. Only on Past Paradise.